Beloved listener, settle your breath for a moment. Let the world outside slow down. I welcome you with the kind of respect one gives to travelers who have come a long way, some tired, some uncertain, some quietly hopeful. You and I meet here not to be entertained, but to think together, to reason, to examine the kind of truths that don't sparkle on the surface, but sit heavy in the soil beneath our lives. Today, we speak about something deceptively simple, something most people dismiss with a shrug and a half smile, yet it determines whether a life compounds or erodes. The title is No Plan, No Progress. Let us begin. 2. The weight of direction. When you've lived long enough, you realize that life does not behave like a generous river that carries you where you hope to go. It behaves much more like a steep mountain, silent, indifferent, and unmoved by your wishes. If you climb, you rise. If you stand still, you slide. If you wander without direction, you return to the same place again and again, confused why the view never changes. People often believe progress is natural, that time itself brings improvement. But time is a neutral observer. It does not care whether you grow or decay. Progress is not something the clock will deliver to you. Progress is something you must architect. And a life without an architecture, without a blueprint, is simply a collection of unconnected days. That is what we examine today. The comfort of drift. There is a certain seduction in drifting through life. You avoid commitment. You avoid confrontation with your own limitations. You avoid accountability. You avoid the discomfort of clarity. Many people wake up each day without a defined direction, not because they lack intelligence, but because they fear the responsibility that a plan demands. A plan removes excuses. A plan makes failure traceable. A plan reveals your inconsistencies. So life becomes a sequence of vague intentions. I want to do better. I want to make more. I want to be happier. Intentions that never turn into specifics. A person who walks into a forest without knowing which way leads home is not unlucky, just unprepared. And yet millions do this with their own futures. The investor's view. Allow me to explain something from the mindset of an old investor. The world rewards clarity and punishes ambiguity. If I invest in a business that has no plan, no roadmap, no metrics, no understanding of their numbers, I call it speculation, not investment. And speculation is nothing but a refined form of gambling. But what most people never realize is that you yourself are the most significant investment you will ever manage. Your time, your attention, your habits, your energy, these are your capital. If you spend them without a plan, the return will be accidental, and accidental returns rarely compound. A life compounds only when it has a direction. The gravity of reality. Let me tell you a truth that is not comforting, but is liberating. If you do not decide where your life is going, the world will decide for you. And the world's plan for you is not very ambitious, a work just enough to stay tired, a spend just enough to stay dependent, a dream just enough to stay quiet. You are not pushed into mediocrity. You simply slide into it. Gravity does not pull upward. To the mental model of trajectories, one of the most important mental models is the concept of trajectory. Trajectory is direction multiplied by consistency. Most people think success comes from intensity, big effort, big days, big wins. But an investor knows intensity is unreliable. Consistency is destiny. If you walk 1 degree off course, you won't notice the mistake today. You won't notice it tomorrow. But give it a year, give it 5, and you will end up somewhere entirely different from where you intended. Life does not care whether your deviation was accidental. It only follows the trajectory you chose consciously or unconsciously. A plan is what ensures the trajectory stays true. Why people avoid planning? Let's reason slowly. Why do so many people live without a plan? There are 3 common reasons. 1, fear of defining what they truly want, because once you define what you want, you can no longer hide behind confusion. 2, fear of discovering their current self is far from their desired self. It is easier to drift than to confront the gap. 3, fear of being wrong. A plan, if it fails, creates discomfort, but no plan, if it fails, allows excuses. People often prefer protecting their ego over protecting their future. But here is the truth. Being wrong is not the danger. Remaining vague is. The discipline of clarity. A plan is not complicated. It is simply clarity made visible. A plan says, this is the direction. These are the steps. This is the pace. This is the standard. This is what I will not tolerate. It does not require perfection. It requires sincerity. You cannot negotiate with your own future through wishful thinking. You negotiate with it through structure. Structure is not rigidity. Structure is freedom. The same way a river needs banks to move forward, a person needs direction to advance. The architecture of progress. Let us walk through something practical, something you can use. A real plan is built from 5 components. 1, a clear destination, not vague desires, a defined target. If this were accomplished in 5 years, would I feel at peace? 2, a small number of leverage points. Progress comes not from doing everything, but from doing the right things consistently. 3, a system, something repeatable, something measurable, something boring enough to work. 4, a schedule. Time is the soil where plans grow. If time is not allocated, nothing takes root. 5, a feedback mechanism, a way to see whether you are on track, a mechanism that is honest and unforgiving. This is not a motivational framework. It is the architecture of compounding. 2, the brutal truth: you are not behind, you are unstructured. People often say, I feel behind. I hear this from young people and old people alike. But being behind is not a real condition. It is simply the emotional result of living without structure. When you create a plan, suddenly the feeling of being behind dissolves, not because your life changes instantly, but because the fog clears. You understand the path. You see the next step, and the next step is always manageable. Progress is not a miracle. It is a sequence. To the economy of attention, let us examine another mental model: attention as currency. You do not spend your attention on what is important. You spend your attention on what is available. Without a plan, you become vulnerable to anything that captures your focus: notifications, opinions, trends, distractions, moods. A plan is a filter. It protects your attention from being auctioned off to the highest bidder. People say they lack time, but time is not the scarce element. Focused attention is. And focus cannot survive in a mind without direction. The quiet strength of intention. When you set a plan, something subtle happens. Your daily actions become intentional instead of reactive. A reactive person wakes up each day and responds to circumstances, to emotions, to distractions, to the environment. Intentional person wakes up and initiates. They move the day instead of being moved by it. This is the difference between wandering and progressing, between living and drifting. The power of saying no. A plan is not only about what you say yes to, it is about what you refuse. No plan, no progress, because without a plan, you cannot say no. You have nothing to measure decisions against. Everything feels equally urgent. Everything feels equally tempting. A plan gives you a standard. It prevents your life from being shaped by random invitations and emotional impulses. The strongest people are not the busiest. They are the most selective. The illusion of when I'm ready. People often wait for clarity to appear magically, but clarity is not discovered, it is constructed. The idea that you must feel ready before building a plan is an illusion. Readiness is not a prerequisite. Readiness is a byproduct of alignment. You do not wait to feel strong to begin lifting weights. You become strong because you begin. Similarly, you do not wait to feel certain. You create certainty by defining direction. Progress rewards the first step, not the perfect step. The 3 seasons of a plan. Every meaningful plan moves through 3 psychological seasons. Season 1, excitement. The beginning is intoxicating. Everything feels possible. Energy substitutes for discipline. But excitement does not last long. It is a spark, not a flame. Season 2, friction. This is the season where most people quit. This is the season where the plan demands discipline instead of enthusiasm, where boredom tests your commitment, where impatience pressures you, where early results are small and fragile. If you continue through the season, something remarkable happens. Season 3, compounding. Actions that once felt heavy begin to feel natural. Results that once seemed slow begin to accelerate. You gain leverage, you gain clarity, you gain confidence. Compounding is the season where progress becomes inevitable. But you cannot arrive at season 3 without surviving season 2. And you cannot enter season 2 without building season 1. And you cannot build season 1 without a plan. The loneliness of responsibility. There is something you must understand. A plan requires loneliness. Not isolation, but solitude. You must be willing to think independently, to define your own metrics, to resist comparison, to hold yourself accountable. Responsibility is uncomfortable. It places your life in your own hands. It removes the comfort of blaming circumstances. But responsibility is also the birthplace of freedom. You cannot be free while drifting. You cannot be free while lost. You cannot be free without direction. Freedom is not the absence of structure. Freedom is the ownership of structure. The hardest step, the hardest part of creating a plan is not the planning itself. It is admitting that drifting has not worked. This admission requires humility. It requires honesty. It requires maturity. Youth gives you the illusion that wandering is harmless. But years reveal the cost. The cost of drifting is not failure. The cost of drifting is potential unexpressed. That is the greatest regret of a lifetime. Building from today, if you feel lost, understand something fundamental. You are not starting from zero. You are starting from experience. Everything that confused you, everything that frustrated you, everything that disappointed you, these were lessons, not punishments. And they now form the raw material of your plan. A plan built from experience is stronger than a plan built from navier. The first principles of self-direction. Let us strip this down to first principles, the foundation beneath all plans. 1, life responds to clarity. It avoids people who do not know what they want. 2, progress is the reward for structure. The world favors those who align their actions with their intention. 3, discipline is not about force, it is about reducing internal debate. A plan removes the need to negotiate with yourself. 4, momentum is created by small wins. A plan breaks large goals into digestible steps. 5, identity solidifies through repetition. When you repeatedly act in alignment with your plan, you become the type of person who follows through. This is not motivational philosophy. This is strategic living, slow, consistent, deliberate. In a world obsessed with speed, the real advantage is slowness. Slowness paired with intention. Fast progress often collapses. Slow progress compounds. The investor's mindset is patient. It does not chase excitement. It chases inevitability. Your life should be built the same way, slowly, intentionally, methodically. The goal is not to feel productive. The goal is to be on a trajectory you respect. The peace that comes with direction. When a plan is in place, something profound changes internally. The anxiety of uncertainty quiets. The noise of comparison fades. The chaos of distraction weakens. You gain a sense of inner steadiness, a kind of groundedness that cannot be faked. People mistake this steadiness for confidence, but it is deeper than confidence. It is clarity, and clarity is peace. Closing reflections. Beloved listeners, if there is one idea I want you to carry with you today, it is this. A life without a plan is not a life without potential. It is simply a life without direction. And direction can be chosen at any moment, even now. But you must choose, not vaguely, not someday, not when things settle. Choose with intention. Because no plan means no progress. No blueprint means no building. No direction means no destination. You owe your future more than wandering. You owe it structure. You owe it clarity. You owe it a plan. Let today be the day you stop drifting. And let your next step slow, steady, deliberate, be the beginning of a trajectory that earns your respect. I thank you for listening, for thinking alongside me, and for carrying the courage to confront your own direction. May your plan be clear. May your progress be steady. And may your life compound in the ways that truly matter.